Hello everyone, welcome to your show Ask Kaveti. Today we are here joined by Mr. Srinivas Rao Kaveti, who has been a lawyer and has been serving for over 30 years. And today we are going to talk about an important topic, which is the war outbreak in Ukraine and how it's affecting its international students. So first I would like to welcome Mr. Kaveti to our show, and we are very excited to have him today.
Hi, welcome back to Ask Kaveti episodes in Mana TV International. The whole world is in crisis now with this outbreak of war and Russians invading Ukraine. With my international law experience, I would like to share some wisdom as what are the rights of these Ukrainian citizens during the war. And there are students from all over the world. There are 150 countries, students are there pursuing their medical education and technology education in Ukraine. And all these students' rights have been infringed and violated. If you see in Ukraine, the majority of students are from India and from Africa. 30 to 40% students are from India. They're pursuing their medicine. And many of them are on the verge of their graduating. What are their rights and what would happen to their future, and would they be able to graduate, and what is European Union is doing? Will they be able to get any green cards or a permanent residencies in Europe, and what are their legal rights in terms of their educational rights, political rights, cultural rights, and spiritual rights, and human rights as well. When you look back by the United Nations, there are so many conventions. There's Geneva Convention, there are conventions of human rights by the United Nations. What is happening for the students, and I'm going to share all those areas today in this episode.
So Mr. Kaveti, I wanted to start by asking you that with your international law experience, can you share some wisdom on the rights of international students of Ukraine?
Yes, there are 150 country students are in Ukraine. What's happening after the war? Many universities have actually misled them. The university said to the students that you don't have to worry when there is a war. They said we will provide bunkers. When there is bombing, you can go into the bunkers. But they misled the students. But when now the Russians are attacking the capital of Ukraine, these students are fleeing away from Ukraine. And many of them are going to the borders, like they're trying to enter into Poland and Belarus and Romania and other countries around. What is happening is the Ukrainian defense personnel, they're not allowing the students to get into Poland and other countries. The reason is one must understand the international law, because these students who are staying in Ukraine, they're living as a temporary residents. They're not permanent residents of that country. Because they are studying there, they will be going there only for studying 5 years or 4 years. After graduation, they belong to another country. So when there is an outbreak of war, because they have a passport, they can go back to their home country. So the law says if you're a Ukrainian citizen, all these countries, they're a European Union, they came up with a law. They said that if you're a Ukrainian citizen, you can flee to Europe, the parts of European Union, so that they get a temporary protection of status and they can stay there for 1 year. When it comes to students from Africa, India and 150 countries, the European Union, they're saying no, you can't get any temporary protection status. There are some non-profit organizations are fighting. They're saying it's discrimination as against foreigners, that why you're discriminating. There should be an equality of law and equal protection of law under the human rights law, that why you're disclaiming and you don't want to give any protection to the international students. However, what is happening now, when you look back, we are seeing, we can only see in the media, what is happening is all these international students are trying to flee away from Ukraine, and some of them, because India has arranged Air Force planes to take some students back to India, and there are some countries like Nigeria and other African countries. They're trying to help their national students, international students, while taking away when they cross the Ukrainian border, when they go to Poland and other countries, Romania, Belarus, and other countries, and even Holland and other countries. So what's happening now? When you see on television and many United Nations, many human rights organizations are showing it on television, that these students are being physically abused. The military personnel of Ukraine, they're physically abusing them, they're physically torturing them. And when the students are going with the Ukrainian citizens, either in the cars or in the buses or trains, they are making them to ally. They're saying, no, you can't get into other countries. Why? They're saying because if you take classic example of India, because India did not support Ukraine in the United Nations, they did not vote in favor of Ukraine because they wanted to be neutral. They did not support US. They did not support Russia. If you see the background of Russia and US, because Russia has been a great friend to India, and so has America now, and a lot of arms and ammunitions and military equipment are being supplied by Russia to India, and US is also supplying a lot of military equipment to India and a lot of aircrafts to India. So India don't want to take any stand either to Russia or to United States. That's the reason in United Nations they didn't vote, they became neutral. But now what's happening is because that country, because the international community is saying that India is not taking any side, so Ukraine military personnel and Ukraine citizens, they are not happy because India has not supported them. So it is affecting the Indian students. They're discriminating them. They're not allowing them to leave the country, and many students are going back into their hostels, and that's a problem now. If there is attacks on the universities or on the hostels, there's a possibility that these students could die. And if you see, there are some students who have already died. The other problem is, if you see Europe, the European Union has come up with a law. They passed a law saying we will not allow foreigners to come and live in Europe for 1 year. They're only allowing the Ukrainian citizens. What would happen? What would happen to the Russian students and Ukrainian students in America? That's another big question.
Okay, wow. So you know how US is always open to immigrants from all over the world. So what would you say are the rights of the Ukrainian and Russian students in America?
There are a lot of Russian students and Ukrainian students in America and different parts of the world. Because of the outbreak of war, many parents, many families, and they lost their businesses, they lost their jobs, even they lost their homes. America, countries like America and all these Western powers, if you see America or England or Australia or Canada or New Zealand, they normally come up with a law, a benefits called temporary protected status. So there's going to be, because based on humanitarian grounds, the Ukrainians and Russian students might get temporary protected status in countries like America. The immigration, because America and these Western powers, they're always very kind to the world, so they come up with humanitarian laws. They pass a law saying they do give some protected status of giving 1 year of work permit, or they could even say that you can drop the school and you can work, and once everything settles, you can go back to school. So, and some countries, they're looking the Russian students, they're discriminating as against Russian students. I guess in my view, it's not fair under the international law, because it's not that Russian students did anything. It's the government or Mr. Putin is doing it. So this is another thing for a news for Ukrainian students and Russian students, whoever they are in the world. They could, if you have any friends with Russian or Ukrainian background, you could share this information to them. They would get certain protection in the Western world. That's a good news for Ukrainian students and Russian students in America or rest of the world.
So this is a very important question I wanted to ask you. How is European Union giving protection or benefits to these international students?
In terms of international students, the European Union has clearly come up and they said they're not going to give any protection in terms of immigration law. That means they might not give any work permit, or they might not give any right to stay in those countries. What they are doing is they're saying that they will arrange the planes so that they can go back to their home countries. So European Union is against the international students. The reason is, if you see the international law, because these international students have a nationality, they can go back to their own country. If somebody is not having any nationality, then the European Union might, or the United Nations might give a protection. If you say that if you are coming from a no man's land, that's called a term which is used in international law. That means if you don't have any country to go back, then you can go back to the refugee camps and you can apply for an asylum anywhere in the world. And United Nations is coming up with refugee camps and asylum camps. So you go back there and you can apply for your residency or a status. There you get benefits. Otherwise, no.
So these international students from India and Africa, will they get any temporary protection status anywhere in Europe?
In European Union, they might not get temporary protection status, but some schools are giving admissions in some of these European universities because they did not complete their education in Ukraine, and some schools are being considerate that they're giving admissions to the students if they want to pursue their education again. It's like a continuation of their earlier education, that they could get admissions in any of these European schools. They might continue their education if they want to. Other than that, in terms of immigration law, I don't think so. With my background of international law, they will get any benefits in terms of staying or getting a work permit or anything like that. No.
Now, I wanted to ask you that what would be the position of Ukrainian citizens in terms of their immigration status in Europe as any other part of the world?
The Ukrainian citizens, they will get temporary protection for 1 year. The European Union has come up with the law, they passed a resolution that they can go and apply for benefits. They're getting a temporary protection status. They can stay there for 1 year. When things improve, they might go back. But at this moment, European Union is giving protection to the Ukrainian citizens. They can stay legally, they can get jobs, they can get some benefits, they can get some shelter, they can get some medical facilities, and they can get a lot of benefits as refugees or as the citizens of Ukraine.
So our students would like to know that will they be able to obtain permanent residency or green cards in US, England, Canada, and Australia?
Yes, it's a wonderful question. Ukrainian citizens, nationals would get green cards, and if they go to the asylum camps or if they apply for a refugee status, United Nations which is coming up with some camps, because all this Western world, they do accept people from countries like Ukraine if there are some outbreaks of war. If you see in the past, the people from Afghanistan, they came to America, now they're getting their green cards. People from a lot of countries, when there are some political disturbances, if there's an outbreak of war or natural calamities, Americans do give green cards to such people. Yes, they do get green cards.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kaveti, for being here with us tonight, and I am so glad that we got to talk to you and you gave us some incredible information. But I would like to ask you if you have anything else to share with our viewers, because I'm sure they still have some questions, and your information that you have given us tonight has been very helpful. So anything else you would like to share with us tonight?
Thanks for joining us in Ask Kaveti episode. We're going to come up with new episodes, and next episode we're going to come up with the students, Indian students coming from India to US with fake degrees. what will be their situation. And a lot of universities are discovering that many students from India have come to the United States to pursue their masters by misrepresenting to the Indian government, misrepresenting to the US consulate and to the universities. We're coming up with a law that what would be their rights, and what would be their rights if they get arrested in India, what would be their rights if they get arrested in America. We're going to come up with that topic next episode. And this show is only for education purposes. We are not trying to solicit any business out of this, and this is only for information. And please don't take this as an attorney-client, or this is not a legal advice. This is just only for information purposes. And if you have any specific questions, please contact competent lawyers in your jurisdiction. And please be tuned, and see you again. And thank you very much.
So here we go, viewers. I hope you had a good time tonight and you learned something important, and I had so much fun asking Mr. Kaveti some important questions that I'm sure many of you can relate to as well. So I would like to see you next week again, where we get to talk to Mr. Srinivas Rao Kaveti once more in your show, Ask Kaveti.